March 6, 1945, Cologne Cathedral Square, Germany.
March 6, 1945, 3:47 p.m. Cologne Cathedral Square. For years, German tankers had ruled Europe's battlefields. But on this day, that dominance would end. Feldwebel Karl Hoffmann pressed his eye against the periscope. He had seen every American tank silhouette, every Sherman, every Stuart. He could identify them in his sleep. But what he saw now wasn't on any recognition chart. Hoffmann, in German, whispering, "Das ist kein Sherman." That's not a Sherman. Through the cracked optics, Hoffmann saw it. A low, angular hull, a cast turret larger than any Sherman's, and a massive gun barrel, long, thick, and impossibly out of proportion. In that moment, he didn't realize he was staring at the first American tank designed to kill him, the M26 Pershing. Just 3 blocks away, Staff Sergeant Robert Early and his crew maneuvered their Pershing, codename Eagle 7, through the ruins. They were part of a secret program, one of only 20 Pershings sent to Europe. Few even knew these tanks existed. The German Panther fired first. Its 75mm high-velocity shell screamed across the square, striking the Pershing's frontal armor. Sparks exploded, but the shell bounced off harmlessly. For a German crew, that was impossible. 3 seconds later, the Pershing answered. Its 90mm M3 gun thundered. The armor-piercing round crossed 120 meters in the blink of an eye and slammed straight through the Panther's turret. The German tank burst into flames. Within seconds, the crew was gone. That single shot changed everything. Captured on film by Signal Corps cameraman Jim Bates, the duel at Cologne Cathedral became one of the most iconic moments of World War II. For the first time, German tank crews learned a brutal truth. The Americans had built something that could kill them at any range, from any angle. The hunter had just become the hunted, and the myth of German invincibility began to die right here in Cologne.
From Normandy to the Ardennes, American tankers fought desperately, often 5 Shermans against 1 Tiger. They called their tanks Ronsons, lights up the first time, because once a German shell struck, the Sherman's gasoline engine and thin armor turned it into an inferno. In 1944 alone, nearly 50,000 American tankers were killed or wounded, and for every Tiger destroyed, dozens of Shermans were lost. The Germans had every reason to feel invincible. The Tiger's 88mm KWK-36 gun could pierce a Sherman at over 2 kilometers before the Americans were even close enough to return fire. Its armor, 120mm thick, was considered impenetrable by anything the Allies had. But by early 1945, that arrogance would meet its reckoning. When the Pershing arrived in Europe, the rules of armored warfare changed overnight. No longer was it about who saw who first, it was about who fired last. The Pershing's 90mm M3 gun could rip through the Tiger's frontal armor at 1,000 meters. Its cast steel turret, power traverse, and stabilizer system meant faster aiming, steadier shots, and fewer missed opportunities. German crews had always trusted that American guns would bounce harmlessly off. But when that first Panther burned in Cologne, every tank commander along the Western Front began asking the same question: what was that new tank? Soon, reports flooded German command posts of Tigers and Panthers being destroyed from distances once thought impossible, of shells punching clean through their armor, of a new American tank with a long black barrel and a gun they'd never seen before. The Germans didn't know it yet, but the age of the Tiger was over. The M26 Pershing wasn't just another tank. It was America's long-awaited answer. a weapon built not from desperation, but from determination. In Cologne, it ended one battle, but symbolically, it ended German tank superiority forever.
September 1942. Across the Atlantic, the Allies were bleeding in North Africa. Reports from the front were grim. German Tigers had arrived, and every Allied tank round fired at them bounced like pebbles against a wall. America had to respond, fast. Deep inside the Ordnance Department, a quiet revolution began. Engineers gathered around a new project proposal, code name T-26. Its purpose was simple: to build an American tank that could destroy a Tiger. The Sherman was quick to build, but its 75mm gun couldn't penetrate a Tiger from the front, even at point-blank range. So the new design would mount a 90mm M3 gun, a weapon powerful enough to punch through 160mm of armor at 1,000 yards. For the first time, the Allies aimed not just for quantity, but for quality. The T-26 would be heavier, stronger, and smarter than anything America had ever built. Engineers gave it a cast turret for easier production, a torsion bar suspension for smoother travel, and a 500-horsepower Ford GAF engine that could push the 46-ton beast through mud, ruins, and snow. In early tests, the 90mm cannon ripped through captured German Panther armor like paper. Officers who witnessed it wrote, "At last, we have something that bites back." But bureaucracy moved slower than the tanks. Generals worried the T-26 was too heavy for bridges in Europe. Some believed victory could be achieved with Shermans alone. Weeks became months. Months became years. By the time production was finally approved, the war was already turning against Germany. But for thousands of American tankers, the decision had come too late. Still, the project continued. By 1944, Fisher Body Division of General Motors in Chrysler had begun large-scale production. The new tank was officially renamed the M26 Pershing, after General John J. Pershing, the hero of World War I. Only a few dozen were built in time for deployment. Crews trained under heavy secrecy, told never to speak of the tank's capabilities. They learned to drive, fire, and fight in total silence. They didn't yet know where they were headed, but the battlefield was waiting. In January 1945, the ships left port under heavy fog. The T-26 project had become real, and soon the Germans would meet their match. The secret weapon was on its way. January 1945. Under gray skies and strict secrecy, 20 brand-new M26 Pershings were rolled aboard transport ships bound for Europe. Officially, they weren't tanks at all. The shipping manifests listed them as maintenance equipment. The War Department didn't want the Germans, or even most Allied commanders, to know what was coming. Their crews, hand-picked from elite armored units, trained in total isolation at Fort Knox. Even they didn't know where they'd be sent. When the ships finally reached Antwerp, orders were unsealed. Destination, 3rd Armored Division, Germany. As the tanks rolled onto European soil, soldiers nearby stopped to stare. They had never seen anything like it. Low, wide, menacing, the Pershing looked like a tank built for revenge. But there were only 20 of them. 20 tanks to challenge the Tiger's reign, and one of those was headed to Cologne. March 6, 1945. Cameraman Jim Bates of the U.S. Signal Corps adjusted his lens and steadied his hands. He didn't know it yet, but he was about to capture one of the most extraordinary tank duels ever filmed. Staff Sergeant Robert Early's Pershing crept forward cautiously. They didn't know where the German armor was hiding until a flash of movement in the distance caught their eye. A Panther tank, perfectly positioned in the Cathedral Square, its gun pointed straight toward them. The Panther fired first.
The round screamed across the ruins, striking the Pershing's mantlet and ricocheting away. Early's gunner, Corporal Clarence Smoyer, returned fire instantly. One shot, one hit. The 90mm round tore through the Panther's armor, and the tank erupted in flames. The footage traveled around the world. For the first time, the American public and the German military saw a Tiger killer in action. The myth of invincibility was over. Inside Wehrmacht intelligence offices, panic spread. Reports from Cologne, Remagen, and the Ruhr contradicted everything they knew. An unidentified long-gun Sherman was destroying Panthers and Tigers frontally, but there was no record of any Sherman with a gun that large. German manuals still claimed all American tanks carried short 75mm guns, harmless against German heavy armor. Now that assumption was killing crews. One captured Panther commander said, "We thought it was a new British tank. The gun was too big for a Sherman." Another whispered, "We never saw it coming. One shot, and the turret flew off." Confusion turned to fear, and fear spread faster than any shell. By spring of 1945, the Panzerwaffe, once the pride of Hitler's army, was collapsing from the inside. Rumors of a new American tank ran wild. Some said it had stolen German technology. Others believed it was unstoppable. Whatever the truth, the effect was the same. German morale broke. Crews who once fought to the last shell now abandoned their tanks after the first hit. Some refused to fight altogether. For years, German tankers had hunted Shermans. Now, they were the hunted. We met a new American tank today. It kills Tigers like paper. The Pershing hadn't just changed the battlefield, it had changed the mindset. The Pershing symbolized more than a new tank. It represented the difference between two worlds. Germany believed in perfection, a few flawless tanks built by hand, each one a masterpiece. America believed in production. Thousands of good tanks built fast enough to overwhelm anything in their path. By war's end, America had produced over 49,000 Shermans and 2,200 Pershings. Germany, by contrast, built just 1,347 Tigers and 492 King Tigers. Quantity, reliability, and logistics, not perfection, had won the war. German tanks were mechanical marvels, but they broke down, ran out of fuel, and couldn't be replaced. The Pershing proved that innovation and mass production, not ideology, would decide the future of armored warfare. For many German tankers, defeat wasn't just mechanical, it was moral. They had been raised to believe the German soldier was unbeatable and German technology was supreme, but the Pershing shattered that illusion. When the Americans crossed the Rhine at Remagen and Pershings rolled over the bridgehead, German officers watched in disbelief. A democracy, they realized, had built a tank better than the Reich's best. The war had always been more than a clash of armies. It was a clash of beliefs. And in 1945, the belief in Nazi superiority burned with every Tiger left smoldering on the battlefield. Only 20 Pershings saw combat in Europe, yet their impact was immense. They arrived too late to change the outcome, but just in time to change the legend. The 90mm gun of the M26 marked the end of German invincibility. It proved that no empire, no machine, and no ideology could stand forever against determination and innovation. From Cologne to the Rhine, the Pershing was more than steel and firepower. It was a symbol of endurance, of men who fought back after years of fear. On that cold day in March 1945, the world witnessed a single tank duel. But in that duel, the tide of history turned. The German Tiger died in the shadow of a cathedral, and the legend of the American Pershing was born.